Chapter 2, Different Quadrants, Different People. Changing quadrants is often a change at the core of who you are. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, my highly educated dad always said. I had talked with him on several occasions, doing my best to explain the cash flow quadrant, in an effort to give him some new financial direction. Nearing 60 years of age, he was realizing that many of his dreams weren't going to be fulfilled. His blacklisting seemed to go beyond the walls of state government. He was now blacklisting himself. I tried it, but it didn't work, he said. My dad was referring to his attempts to be successful in the S quadrant as a self-employed consultant, and as a B when he poured much of his life savings into a famous ice cream franchise that failed. Being bright, he conceptually understood the different technical skills required in each of the 4 quadrants. He knew he could learn them if he wanted to. But there was something else holding him back. One day over lunch, I talked to my rich dad about my educated dad. Your father and I aren't the same people at the core, said rich dad. While we both have fears, doubts, beliefs, strengths, and weaknesses, we respond or handle those core similarities quite differently. Can you tell me the differences? I asked. Not over one lunch, said rich dad. But how we respond to those differences is what causes us to remain in one quadrant or another. When your dad tried to cross over from the E quadrant to the B quadrant, intellectually he could understand the process, but he couldn't handle it emotionally. When things didn't go smoothly and he began to lose money, he didn't know what to do to solve the problems, so he went back to the quadrant he felt most comfortable in. The E and sometimes S quadrant, I said. Rich dad nodded his head. When the fear of losing money and failing becomes too painful inside, a fear we both have, he chooses to seek security and I choose to seek freedom. And that is the core difference, I said, signaling the waiter for our check. Even though we're all human beings, said rich dad, when it comes to money and the emotions attached to money, we all respond differently. And it's how we respond to those emotions that often determines which quadrant we choose to generate our income from. Different quadrants for different people, I said. That's right, said the rich dad as we stood and headed for the door. And if you're going to be successful in any quadrant, you need to have more than just technical skills. You also need to know the core differences that cause people to seek different quadrants. Know that, and life will be much easier. We were shaking hands and saying goodbye as the valet brought my rich dad's car around. Oh, one last thing, I said hurriedly. Can my dad change? Oh sure, said the rich dad. Anyone can change. But changing quadrants isn't like changing jobs or changing professions. Changing quadrants is often a change at the core of who you are, how you think and how you look at the world. The change is easier for some people than for others simply because some people welcome change and others fight it. And changing quadrants is most often a life-changing experience. It's a change as profound as the age-old story of the caterpillar becoming a butterfly. Not only will you change, but so will your friends. While you'll still be friends with your old friends, it's just harder for caterpillars to do the same things butterflies do. So the changes are big changes, and not too many people choose to make them. The valet closed the door, and as my rich dad drove off, I was left thinking about the core differences. What are the core differences? How do I tell if people are an E, S, B, or I without knowing much about them? One of the ways is by listening to their words. One of my rich dad's greatest skills was being able to read people, but he also believed you could not judge a book by its cover. Rich dad, like Henry Ford, didn't have an excellent education, but both men knew how to hire and work with people who did. Rich dad always explained to me that the ability to bring smart people together and work as a team was one of his primary skills. When I was 9, my rich dad began to teach me the skills necessary to be successful in the B and I quadrants. One of those skills was to get beyond the surface of a person and gaze into their core. Rich dad used to say, if I listen to a person's words, I begin to see and feel their souls. So as a young boy, I began to sit in with my rich dad when he hired people. From these interviews I learned to listen, not so much for words, but for core values, Values that my rich dad said came from their souls. E quadrant words. A person who comes from the E, employee, quadrant might say, I am looking for a safe, secure job with good pay and excellent benefits. S quadrant words. A person who comes from the S, self-employed, quadrant might say, my rate is $75 per hour. Or my normal commission rate is 6% of the total price. Or I can't seem to find people who want to work and do the job right. Or I've got more than 20 hours into this project. B quadrant words. A person operating out of the B, business owner, quadrant might say, I'm looking for a new president to run my company. I quadrant words. Someone operating out of the I, investor, quadrant might say, is my cash flow based on an internal rate of return or net rate of return? Words are tools. Once my rich dad knew who person he was interviewing was at their core, at least for that moment, he would know what they were really looking for, what he had to offer, and what words to use when speaking to them. Rich Dad always said, words are powerful tools. Rich Dad constantly reminded his son Mike and me of this. If you want to be a leader of people, then you need to be a master of words. So one of the skills necessary to be a great B is to be a master of words, knowing which words work on which kinds of people. He trained us to first listen carefully to the words a person used. Then we would know which words we should use and when to use them, in order to respond to that person in the most effective way. Rich Dad explained, one word may excite one type of person while that same word would completely turn off another person. For example, the word risk might be exciting to a person in the I quadrant, but evoke total fear to someone in the E quadrant. To be great leaders, Rich Dad stressed that we first had to be great listeners. If you don't listen to the words a person uses, you'll never be able to feel their soul. And if you don't listen to their soul, you'll never know to whom you are talking. Core differences. The reason he would say, hear their words, feel their souls, is because behind the words a person chooses are the core values and core differences of that individual. The following are some of the generalities that separate people in one quadrant from those in another. 1. The E, employee. When I hear the words secure or benefits, I get a sense of who the speaker might be at the core. The word secure is a word often used in response to the emotion of fear. If a person feels fear, then the need for security is often a commonly used phrase for someone who comes predominantly from the E quadrant. When it comes to money and jobs, there are many people who simply hate the feeling of fear that comes with economic uncertainty, hence, the desire for security. The word benefit means people would also like some kind of additional reward that is spelled out, a defined and assured extra compensation, such as health insurance or a retirement plan. The key is that they want to feel secure and see it in writing. Uncertainty doesn't make them happy, certainty does. Their internal workings say, I'll give you this if you promise to give me that in return. They want their fear reduced by the presence of some degree of certainty, so they seek security and strong agreements when it comes to employment. They're accurate when they say, I'm not that interested in money. For them, the idea of security is often more important than money. Employees can be presidents of companies or janitors. It's not so much what they do, but the contractual agreement they have with the person or organization that hires them. 2. The S, self-employed. These are people who want to be their own boss or like to do their own thing. I call this group the do-it-yourselfers. Often, when it comes to the subject of money, a hardcore S doesn't like to have his or her income dependent on other people. In other words, if S's work hard, they expect to get paid for their work. S's don't like having the amount of money they earn dictated by someone else or by a group of people who might not work as hard as they do. If they work hard, they expect to be paid well. Conversely, they also understand that if they don't work hard, then they don't deserve to be paid much. When it comes to money, they have fiercely independent souls. The emotion of fear. So while the E often responds to the fear of not having money by seeking security, the S often responds differently. The people in this quadrant respond to fear, not by seeking security, but by taking control of the situation and doing it on their own. That is why I call the S group the do-it-yourself group. When it comes to fear and financial risk, they want to take the bull by the horns. In this group you find well-educated professionals who spend years in school, such as doctors, lawyers, and dentists. Also in the S group are people who took educational paths other than, or in addition to, traditional school. In this group are direct commission salespeople and real estate agents, as well as small business owners like retail shopkeepers, cleaners, restaurateurs, consultants, therapists, travel agents, car mechanics, plumbers, carpenters, preachers, electricians, hairstylists, and artists. This group's favorite song would be either Nobody Does It Better or I Did It My Way. Self-employed people are often hardcore perfectionists. They often want to do something exceptionally well. In their mind, they don't think anyone else does it better than they do, so they really don't trust anyone else to do it. In many respects, they are true artists with their own style and methods of doing things. And that is why we hire them. If you hire a brain surgeon, you want that brain surgeon to have had years of training and experience, but most importantly, you want this brain surgeon to be a perfectionist. The same goes for a dentist, hairstylist, marketing consultant, plumber, electrician, lawyer, or a corporate trainer. You, as the client hiring this person, want someone who is the best. For people in this group, money isn't the most important thing about their work. Their independence, the freedom to do things their way, and being respected as experts in their field are much more important than mere money. When hiring them, it's best to tell them what you want done and then leave them alone to do it. They don't need or want supervision. If you meddle too much, they'll simply walk off the job and tell you to hire someone else. Remember, independence trumps money for this group. They often have a hard time hiring other people to do what they do simply because, in their mind, nobody else is up to the task. Also, if this group trains someone to do what they do, that newly trained person often ends up leaving to do their own thing, to be their own boss, to do things their way, or to have a chance to express their individuality. Many S-types are hesitant to hire and train other people because, once trained, they often end up as their competition. This, in turn, keeps the S-types working harder at doing things on their own. 3. The B, business owner. This group of people could almost be the opposite of the S. Those who are true Bs like to surround themselves with smart people from all four categories, E, S, B, and I, unlike the S, who doesn't like to delegate work, because no one can do it better. The B likes to delegate. The true motto of a B is, why do it yourself when you can hire someone to do it for you, and they can do it better? Henry Ford fit this mold. As one popular story goes, a group of so-called intellectuals came by to condemn Ford for being ignorant. They claimed he really didn't know much. So Ford invited them into his office and challenged them to ask him any question, and he would answer it. So this panel assembled around America's most powerful industrialist and began to ask him questions. Ford listened to their questions and, when they were through, he simply reached for several phones on his desk and called in some of his bright assistants and asked them to give the panel the answers they sought. He ended by informing the panel that he'd rather hire smart people who went to school to come up with answers so he could leave his mind clear to do more important tasks. I like thinking. One of the quotes credited to Ford goes, "Thinking is the hardest work there is." That is why so few people engage in it. Leadership is bringing out the best in people. My rich dad's idol was Henry Ford. He had me read books about people like Ford and John D. Rockefeller, the founder of Standard Oil. Rich Dad constantly encouraged Mike and me to learn the essence of leadership and the technical skills of business. In retrospect, I understand now that many people may have one or the other, but to be a successful B, you really do need to have both. I also now realize that both skills can be learned. There is a science, as well as an art, to business and leadership. For me, both are lifelong studies. When I was a boy, my rich dad gave me the children's book Stone Soup, written in 1947 by Marcia Brown and still available today. He had me read this book to begin my training as a leader in business. Leadership, Rich Dad said, is the ability to bring out the best in people. So he trained his son and me in the technical skills necessary for becoming successful in business. Technical skills such as reading financial statements, marketing, sales, accounting, management, production, and negotiation. Throughout each lesson, he stressed that we needed to learn to work with and lead people. Rich Dad always said, "The technical skills of business are easy. The hard part is working with people." As a reminder, I still read Stone Soup today because I personally have a tendency to be a tyrant, instead of a leader, when things don't go my way. Entrepreneurial development. I often hear the words, "I'm going to start my own business." Many people tend to believe that the way to financial security and happiness is to do your own thing or to develop a new product no one else has. So they rush out and start their own business. In many cases, this is the path they take. Many wind up starting an S-type of business and not a B-type of business. Again, one is not necessarily better than the other. Both have different strengths, weaknesses, risks, and rewards. But many people who want to start a B-type of business wind up with an S-type of business and become stalled in their quest to move to the right side. Many new entrepreneurs want to do this, but they wind up instead doing this and getting stuck there. Many then attempt to do this, but only a few who attempt this actually make it. Why? Because the technical skills and human skills to be successful in each quadrant are different. You must learn the skills and mindset required by a quadrant in order to find true success there. The difference between an S-type of business and a B-type of business: those who are true Bs can leave their business for a year or more and return to find their business more profitable and running better than when they left it. In a true S-type of business, if the S left for a year or more, chances are there would be no business left to return to. So what causes the difference? Saying it simply, an S owns a job, a B owns a system and then hires competent people to operate the system. Or put another way, in many cases, the S is the system. That is why they can't leave. For example, let's take a look at a typical dentist. A dentist spends years in school learning to become a self-contained system. You, the client, get a toothache. You go see your dentist. He fixes your tooth. You pay and go home. You're happy and you tell all of your friends about your great dentist. In most cases, the dentist can do the entire job by himself. The problem is that if the dentist goes on vacation, so does his income. B business owners can go on vacation forever because they own a system, not a job. If the B is on vacation, the money still comes in. To be successful as a B requires 1. Ownership or control of systems, and 2. The ability to lead people. For us is to evolve into Bs, they need to convert who they are and what they know into a system, and many aren't able to do that. Or they're often too attached to the system to let go and let other people in. Can you make a better hamburger than McDonald's? Many people come to me for advice on how to start a company or how to raise money for a new product or idea. I listen, usually for about 10 minutes. And within the time I can tell where their focus is. Is it the product or the business system? In those 10 minutes, I most often hear words such as these: remember the importance of being a good listener and allowing words to direct you to the core values of a person's soul. This is a far better product than companies is makes. I've looked everywhere, and nobody has this product. I'll give you the idea for this product, all I want is 25% of the profits. I've been working on this product, book, music score, invention, for years. These are the words of a person generally operating from the left side, the ES side. It's important to be gentle at this time because I'm dealing with core values and ideas that have been entrenched for years, maybe handed down for generations. If I'm not gentle or patient, I could damage a fragile and sensitive launch of an idea and, more importantly, a human being ready to evolve into another quadrant. The hamburger and the business. Since I need to be gentle, at this point in the conversation, I often use the McDonald's hamburger example for clarification. After listening to their pitch, I slowly ask, can you personally make a better hamburger than McDonald's? So far, 100% of the people I've talked with about their new idea or product have said yes. They can all prepare, cook and serve a better quality hamburger than McDonald's. Next I asked them, can you personally build a better business system than McDonald's? Some people see the difference immediately, and some don't. And I would say the difference is whether the person is fixated on the left side of the quadrant, which is focused on the idea of the better burger, or on the right side of the quadrant, which is focused on the business system. I do my best to explain that there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there offering far superior products or services than are offered by the mega-rich multinational corporations, just as there are billions of people who can make a better burger than McDonald's. But only McDonald's has created the system that has served billions of burgers. See the other side. If people can begin to see this truth, I then suggest they go to McDonald's, buy a burger, and sit and look at the system that delivered that burger. Take note of the trucks that delivered the raw burger, the rancher that raised the beef, the buyer who bought the beef, and the TV ads that helped sell the beef. Notice the training of young and experienced people to say the same words, hello, welcome to McDonald's, as well as the decor of the franchise, the regional offices, the bakeries that bake the buns, and the millions of pounds of French fries that taste exactly the same all over the world. Then include the stockbrokers raising money for McDonald's on Wall Street. If they can begin to understand the whole picture, then they have a chance at moving to the BI side. The reality is that there are unlimited new ideas, billions of people with services or products to offer, millions of products, and only a few people who know how to build excellent business systems. Bill Gates didn't build a great product. He bought somebody else's product and built a powerful global system around it. 4. The I, investor. Investors make money with money. They don't have to work because their money is working for them. The I quadrant is the playground of the rich. Regardless of which quadrant people make their money in, if they hope someday to be rich, they ultimately must come to the I quadrant. It's in the I quadrant that money becomes converted to wealth. The cash flow quadrant. The cash flow quadrant simply makes distinctions on how income is generated, whether as an E, employee, S, self-employed, B, business owner, or I, investor. The differences are summarized below. OPT and OPM. Most of us have heard that the secrets to great riches and wealth are OPT, other people's time, OPM, other people's money. OPT and OPM are found in the B and I quadrants. For the most part, people who work in the E and S quadrants are the other people, whose time and money are being used. A primary reason Kim and I took time to build a B type of business, rather than an S type, was because we recognized the long-term benefit of using other people's time. One of the drawbacks to being a successful S is that success simply means more hard work. In other words, good work results in more hard work and longer hours. In designing a B type of business, success simply means increasing the system and hiring more people. In other words, you work less, earn more, and enjoy more free time. The remainder of this book goes through the skills and mindset required for the right side of the cash flow quadrant. It's my experience that being successful on the right side requires a different mindset and different technical skills. If people are flexible enough to make these changes, I think they'll find the process of achieving greater financial security or freedom easy. For other people, the process might be too difficult because many people are frozen in one quadrant and one mindset. At a minimum, you'll find out why some people work less, earn more, pay less in taxes, and feel more financially secure than others. It's simply a matter of knowing which quadrant to work out of and when. A guide to freedom. The cash flow quadrant is not a set of rules. It's only a guide for those who wish to use it. It guided Kim and me from financial struggle, to financial security, and then to financial freedom. The difference between the rich and everyone else. A few years ago, I read an article that said most rich people receive 70% of their income from investments, or the I quadrant, and less than 30% from wages, or the E quadrant. If they were an E, chances are that they were employees of their own corporation. Their income looked like this. For most everyone else, the poor and the middle class, at least 80% of their income comes from wages from the E or S quadrants, and less than 20% from investments in the I quadrant. The difference between being rich and being wealthy. In Chapter 1, I wrote that Kim and I were millionaires by 1989, but we weren't financially free until 1994. There's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. By 1989, our business was making us a lot of money. We were earning more and working less because the business system was growing without any more physical effort on our part. We had achieved what most people would consider financial success.